Hi everybody, I'm Nick and I'm here today with Patrick and Friends Music Company. And today I'm going to be talking about how to get more out of your reverbs and delays. So reverb and delay are some of my favorite effects. I use them a lot, but I find that they're really easy to overuse. So I thought today I would talk to you guys about how you can properly dial these in to where you're not totally overtaking the band with your sound. So let's start off with reverb. Now, we all love to use a lot of reverb, but it's really easy to overuse. So I'm going to show you how you can properly dial this in. Now, one of the keys is making sure that the reverb doesn't overtake your clean signal. So check this out. As I dial this in, you're going to notice my sound gets way bigger, right? But if I turn this up too high, what happens? Even though I'm getting this really luscious sound, I've lost the attack of my note entirely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off the mix of the reverb. Go about here. Obviously, every reverb pedal is totally different, but you tend to find this sweet spot where you can still really hear it presently in the mix without it totally overtaking the attack of your note. I'm going to put it right about here. Yeah. Now, to kind of compensate for the loss in mix, I'm going to turn up the decay of the reverb actually pretty high. Remember, this is for ambient sounds that I'm going for here. So when I'm dialing in the decay of this reverb, one of the things I'm really trying to keep in mind is the decay going too long to where it's kind of bleeding into different chords. So let me try playing a little chord progression and seeing if this causes a lot of muddiness, which is we're gonna try to avoid that. That sounds pretty good to me. Notice if I turn up the mix way too high, it's going to end up getting way too muddy. That might work for some situations, but really it's not working for what I'm going for here. Turn that back down. Now, the rest of this is kind of going to be dependent on what kind of reverb pedal you have. But what I tend to do is I turn up the treble of the reverb about to here. Now, that might be a little bit bright for some of you. We all know that really dark sounding reverbs sound great and really big and luscious, but the problem can be when you're in the context of a full band, it can get totally buried from the rest of the band. So I turn this up a little bit higher, just so it really carries out in the mix. So that's how I tend to dial in my ambient reverbs. Next up, let's talk about delay. I'm going to keep my reverb on because I tend to use these effects together. So, delay, just like reverb, makes our sound way bigger, but it's really easy to overuse. So again, I'm going to actually apply that same rule that I used for my reverb. I'm going to keep that mix down, and I'm going to turn the decay up. So let's see if we can get a good sound here. I can't quite hear that delay, so I'm going to go and turn that up. There we go. And just like the decay on the reverb, I'm going to make sure that this doesn't go so long that it messes with my chord progression. So let's see. There we go. So that's how I dial in an ambient reverb and delay sound. Let's try some other sounds. So this next one is something that I like to use for when I'm playing blues music. I'll tend to use a spring type reverb for this. So some people don't have pedals with a spring engine in it, but that's okay. Really, there's any kind of reverb is going to work for this. Also, if you don't have a reverb pedal, it can be really great to use just the reverb on your amp for this kind of music. I'm going to use the pedal for this though. So this next part is really subjective. I tend to use a little bit more spring reverb than some other folks will. But with this especially, you really want to make sure that this isn't totally overtaking your sound. That's about where I want it. Now with delay, this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky. So there's all sorts of different kind of preferences with this. I tend to like slapback delay for playing blues. Check this out. You can barely hear it, but it's there. The idea here is that this isn't going to get in my way, but it's going to add a little bit of extra texture to what I'm playing. Now, when I add in the reverb, that's going to mostly disappear. But it's still in the mix. You can even turn that up just a little bit here. So for dialing in a slapback delay, there's a few rules that I try to follow. One, you got to make sure that your repeats are low. If I turn them up too high, we get almost like this kind of reverby thing. Some people really like that. I'm not a fan though. So I turn it down to where I only get one repeat. So as far as the time goes, you can pretty much dial this in with any kind of delay pedal. The only rule is you have to set the time to where it slaps right after you play the note. There's this trick that I actually like to use, which is called the chicken nugget trick. So what you do is you say the word chicken nugget, and you see if it lines up with the delay. Let's see if it works. So, works for me. So I'll have that dialed in, add in my reverb. So the idea there with all of those wet effects when I'm going for that genre is I'm trying to make sure that that stuff stays out of my way. So lastly, I'm going to talk about how to dial in a good R&B sound with your reverbs and delays. Now this is actually going to be pretty similar to the blues thing, except I'm going to go a little bit longer with my decays here. Pretty much any kind of reverb works here. You want to make sure it's not too ambient though. I'm going to use a plate reverb for this one. I'm actually going to turn off my overdrive entirely when I'm dialing this in. So notice that same trick is going to apply here. I'm going to turn up the decay and down the mix. The idea is when you're playing R&B, a lot of the time you're playing kind of clean chords on your guitar. And you want to make sure that your reverb and delay isn't getting in the way of kind of the clarity of your chords. So I'm going to keep that about there. And I'm going to dial in a delay. Now, there's all sorts of different directions we can go with this one. Here's what I tend to do. I'll use something like a tape delay. And I'm going to use this really, really subtly. See, it's kind of just barely in the mix, but what it's going to do is it's going to add a little bit of ambience to my chords here. There we go. Now, just for fun, I'm going to add a little bit of modulation to this. Let's do some chorus. So that's it for today. I hope this was helpful for you guys as you're dialing in your own sounds at home. Remember, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And also be sure to check out our Patreon down in the description down below. Thanks, guys.